What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take on this Wednesday. Crewed up, Stephen A. Smith, Ryan Clark, Max Kellerman, Molly Karen Rose. Thank you guys for hanging with us.
What's up, y'all?
By the way, Wale's going to be here. We'll be talking all things DC sports and, of course, his new album. So looking forward to that in just a bit. We ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Every day.
Ask and you shall receive. Jalen Ramsey, who asked to be traded after Jacksonville's Week 2 loss to Houston, he's headed to L.A. The Jags also got what they wanted, though, getting a first-round pick in 2020 and 2021, plus a fourth-round pick in 2021 in exchange for Ramsey. Now, the move fills a major hole in the Rams' secondary. Monday, L.A. put starting cornerback Aqib Talib on IR earlier Tuesday. They traded Pro Bowl corner Marcus Peters to Baltimore. Max, tell me this.
Yep.
What impact will Ramsey have on this Ram squad?
Well, I think it'll have a big impact this season. This season, I think it's a big impact. Going forward, you're giving up a lot. I mean, for a team that needs to fill in holes all over the place and who has a lot of money devoted to a running back who knows if he'll ever consistently be fully healthy, you're giving up consecutive first-round picks. You're giving up a fourth. It's a lot. And then also what's weird is you trade Marcus Peters. Look, I know the NFL is not like other leagues. More than any other, you can't just look at the brand name. Because if the athletic ability or the discipline or whatever it is starts to go away, that brand name guy, which Marcus Peters is, suddenly is a bad player. And I understand he's been a bad player this year. But he's also in his physical prime, or should be, and we've seen him be a very good player. And so if you want to improve your secondary, and he wasn't involved in the trade directly, so that part, like, what are they doing exactly? But I'll say this. They got the blue chippiest of blue chip secondary players in the NFL. Like, Gilmore's having a better year, but no one in terms of talent, projecting it going forward, age, everything. Jalen Ramsey is the guy you want. And this helps all over the field. Not only can they play man, which is like, they can match up with the other guy's top receiver, but now guys like Dante Fowler have it easier because because the corner takes the pressure off the front four, allows them to do their thing. The whole defense should improve. And Stephen A., when we look at these teams in the NFL, the elite teams, what are we looking at really? We know the dynamic offenses. Who can do it on the other side of the ball? The Saints can. The Patriots can. The Chiefs, not really. The Rams, not really. Now maybe the Rams can, and that's huge for this season.
I disagree with you. I don't think there's much of an impact this year. Just this year. And the reason I feel that way is because that's not the problem with the Los Angeles Rams right now. Obviously, the game they gave up 55 to Tampa, that was an aberration, but that was something to be alarmed about. But the real issue with the Los Angeles Rams is their running game. The fact of the matter is you got the 22nd ranked rushing attack with Todd Gurley a bit hampered, not 100%. That is the thing that is plaguing this franchise right now. If you had a running attack with the 6th ranked passing attack and the kind of things that Gurley's presence, when productive, elevates Jared Goff to, elevates Sean McVay to, because it gives him more options. That pretty much offsets anything they're throwing your way. Even when Sean McVay arrived, and he had Wade Phillips as his defensive coordinator, they weren't a stout, elite defense. They were good. Even when they had Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib when they first arrived, and everybody was, prognosticating about what they would bring to the table and what have you. You never looked at the Rams defense and said they're elite. A matter of fact, when they went up against Kansas City on Monday Night Football, right on our airways, one of the best games we've ever seen, the score was 54-51. Okay, they gave up 51.
It was fun to watch.
I was there in person in the end zones. It is the greatest experience I've ever had at an NFL game in my life. I had a damn section with about 5,000-6,000 people screaming at me, chanting my name for crying out loud, heckling me the whole night. It was hilarious. But it was the greatest experience I've ever had in an NFL game. The reality is that when they gave up the 51 points, Ryan, no one was really surprised. Nobody looked at it and said, oh, my God, where's the Rams defense or whatever. You know why? Because you think about Aaron Donald and you think about the personnel, the Brockers, the Aqib Talibs and others, but you never looked at them as having an elite defense.
But now they have a second elite piece.
But I'm saying to you, at the end of the day, even if their defense improves, I don't expect it to have much of an impact on the franchise because it's about their offense. If your offense isn't productive enough, it doesn't matter. Sean McVay's teams are not going to beat you with their defense leading the way. Their offense has to deliver the goods.
I will say this. He immediately makes this defense better.
Well, I know that. Yeah, I'm not questioning that.
The only player at his position in the conversation with Jalen Ramsey is Stephon Gilmore. Mm-hmm. And he has added a piece to that New England Patriots defense that makes them different. Jalen Ramsey will do that for Wade Phillips and this defense. Aubrey Pleasance, who's the DB coach, is going to be one of the young coaches that we start hearing about getting head coaching interviews. And so I know he's excited to have a guy like Jalen Ramsey. And what they can do is be different than they've been this year. They've been less than 20% man. When you look at the Patriots,
Jameis put 55
and when you look at the Patriots, where they're 50% man because of pieces.
That's going to change today.
Right, because of pieces. And now you can get Dante Fowler. You can get Aaron Donald. Give these guys opportunities to rush because you don't have that quick outlet because you have to play so much zone. Marcus Peters is an excellent ball-savvy corner. Not just good. From a ball awareness perspective, he's amazing. Yeah. From a technique perspective, from a discipline perspective, as far as playing man, which we saw last year against Michael Thomas. Right. Everything changed then because they understood they had to coach differently. Now, to Stephen A's point.
Coach differently, you mean they can't
you can't do as much man. Yeah, you got to play more zone. You have to sit people back. You have to make sure you have help. There has to be over-the-top help. If we're playing man, we have to play 2-man, which is man under, 2 safeties high. We can still only rush 4. It doesn't give you an extra player to add to a rush. Now you're asking Aaron Donald to beat double teams every play. So that changes. Now to your point about offense, it doesn't make this team the Super Bowl contender that it was last year. You're already playing with San Francisco. You're playing with the Seattle Seahawks, both of whom have already beaten you. And when you look at this team Sunday, I don't care if they had Jalen Ramsey, Deion Sanders, Rod Woodson, Ronnie Lott. It didn't matter who was playing in the secondary when your quarterback can only complete 8 passes, when you can't protect him, when you can't run the ball. And so, though I think this solves one problem, can Sean McVay, can you put enough pieces together on this offensive line to solve the other problem? And when you give away 2 first-round picks and a 4th rounder, you know you won't be able to necessarily do it through the draft. Line. Yeah, through the
who
draft
soon. Who do you think won the trade?
I think it's a win-win for everybody. But who won it mostly? Jalen Ramsey. Period, point blank. He ain't missed a check. And he got his trade.
He's going to L.A.
And he's going to L.A.
Like Jalen Ramsey won this from a team perspective. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, it depends on how you're looking at it. If you said you didn't want to get rid of him, that you felt like he was a piece to your future, then you lost. And the other side of it is because of salary cap reasons, you lose a year and a half of Jalen Ramsey on a defense you're going to have to retool because of the money you already placed in it. And so from that perspective, you get the draft picks to try to do that.
I'm willing to bet the house, though, Max. We won't hear about Jalen Ramsey having the flu.
No, back issues.
Well, you know,
personal problems.
But his back could have healed over the games that he missed.
I totally understand.
You see
I totally
what I'm
understand.
saying?
I mean, you
that's
know what?
why he had to sit out.
Listen. I'm sure that's going to happen. I mean, I think that's one of the safest bets in football right now.
But if your back is
that prolonged back injury, back when he's talking about the disc, the Pilates,
of course, going to be strong.
They're not going to be.
And there's a lot of studios in LA. He can do this.
Ryan, before we go, and I'll get into this later with the guys, but I just want to ask you before we go to break here, what kind of precedent do you feel like this sets? Is this good for the players, or is this saying, hey, I pout and I get my way?
No, I think this is really good for the players, and I don't necessarily see it as pouting. I see it as taking your business, which is you, into your own hands. And the other side of this is every player can't do this. This is usually something that was resigned to quarterbacks, but because of the way the NFL works and the premium put on that position, they never had to do this. Now we're seeing positional players who are transcendent take their careers and their destinations into their own hands, and I love it.
What I support, I love it too, but here's the reason that I love it. I wouldn't love it if this was in a vacuum where it's like, all right, Jalen Ramsey, Tom Coughlin in Jacksonville. It forces us to think about, if we're smart enough to do it, to think about Tom Coughlin and his history. He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion, but he has been a taskmaster. Very old school, perceived as being relatively rigid. And when it comes to the stars, this notion that they don't get to be treated differently, that's foolish. Yeah. They are treated differently.
Yeah, when you're arguably the best corner in the game.
That's why I'm saying when you say it's
now.
About this year, and I think they actually maybe, like, it depends on Gurley's health, of course. Right. But let's assume for a second that Gurley can be most of what he was by the middle end of this season, right? It's not just that they added a good piece. They have Aaron Donald up front. They have Jalen Ramsey back there, and they have some other defensive pieces. I mentioned Fowler, too. Suddenly, this defense has the premium of premium players at very important defensive positions.
All right.
If they could just be solid defensively,
definitely-
Got to hit a break.
Troy
Ryan
Hill,
Clark
David Long,
staying here with
Roby
us.
Coleman.
When we come back, LeBron James taking heat over his comments on China, but find out why he doesn't look as bad as many might think. Stephen A., what else you got?
A lot more to come up on First Take. Is Jason Garrett the problem in Big D? Or is it the man who is keeping him around? Plus, I'll tell you why the Sixers will pull off something they haven't